So last year's race car experiment was to paint the SM, the Spec Miata car, using Rust-Oleum, thinned out Rust-Oleum. And what we learned was that it was a heck of a lot of work. But the good news is that repairs to fairly minor body damage issues turned out to be nice and easy. Because with single stage paint, you could just go ahead and sand down the affected area, repair it, and then roll on new. This is the other car, of course. This is the blue car, the SSM, the showroom spec Miata. And this is factory paint from 1991. The factory paint here is called Mariner Blue, and we've learned through interesting experience that it has an interesting property. Although this car is from 1991, donor car before it was a race car had 140,000 miles on it. And I'll grant you it was garaged in California, but nonetheless, you can see the paint is in unbelievably good condition. And the reason that's relevant to the project I'm going to take on now is that there's something about this Mariner Blue paint on these model Miatas that causes them to fade very, very, very little. Whenever, it's not just this car, whenever I see one of these cars at the racetrack, it's mind-blowing how good the paint condition appears to be. Now this particular car, my faithful readers will know, was involved in a very serious crash on track a couple of years ago. And this whole side of the car has basically been repainted. In fact, this whole side of the car has essentially been replaced. And the paint was so easy to match. The standard paint code that the suppliers were given just didn't need any remixing to match. This brown spot here is a repair that I've been repairing that happened this year. So that's primer right there. That's about to get painted. So factory paint, it's obviously a two-stage paint where you have a clear coat on top of it. And the bad news here is that to repair factory paint's a lot more work than it would be with single stage like Rust-Oleum. The good news is that this is a Mariner Blue car. And I'm investigating much cheaper ways to fix this than having a body shop spray it, because as you can see on the driver's side, I've got a repair to do. And here, fortunately, I have another repair to do. This is minor contact that occurred at the end of the season, last season. What you're looking at is what we call a half moon, where another race car's wheel has come up against this rear bumper and just machined right through the paint. So what are the options to repair it? Well, one option might be to go ahead and pay a body shop to do it. Another option that I'm investigating here is, what if we have a can of single stage paint mixed? And I've had a body shop do that. You give them the factory code here, which in Mariner Blue is DU, and they can mix this. This is about $12 can. And what I'm going to do here is see if I can get, I'm not assuming this is going to be a Barrett Jackson car after this. What I'm looking for is a repair in this area that will really not be all that visible unless you look pretty closely. So, like a 30-foot type of paint job. And that's because that's how I want it to look. It's also by rule. This car is raced in SCCA, and they've really cracked down on cars being kind of ugly. So what I've done to start this is sanded off all the badness. There was sort of ground up plastic from the bumper that had been sort of melted real time during the incident. I sanded it down, and then I sanded the surrounding area. I actually wet sanded it, and that's just to give a mechanical bond. For those who aren't familiar with painting, pretty much any time you're going to paint anything, you really want to have some kind of roughness to the surface so that there's a mechanical bond the paint will form. And now what I've done is I've just taped off the area, and I'm about to start spraying. And just wanted to create a series of videos that kind of shows this little project and what the outcome turns out to be. So there's the prep. I'm about to wipe it down with just a little bit of acetone, make sure there's no dust, grease, anything on the surface. I wet sanded it. I cleaned it off with just water and paper, and now I'm going to use the acetone to triple check. And then I'm going to spray on coats, and I'm going to do, I'm not a very good spray painter, so I'm going to do a large number of small, very thin coats so I don't get runs. And I'll keep the series of video going and let you all know how this goes.